Today we have some terrible neighbors, Karens, and HOAs. Our first story is called Neighbor Gets Expensive Smart Home Appliances Installed on Wi-Fi with No Password. Calls the police when I let them know that's bad. Posted by ULFR. I was farting around with a crappy laptop's Wi-Fi card and I saw that I had an access point that I could connect to that wasn't there before. Signal was so-so and I had my own internet, so I didn't bother trying to use that one, so I just sorta forgot about it. About a week later, I was unplugging some stuff and accidentally unplugged my wireless router, and while it was unplugged, my phone found the next accessible Wi-Fi access point, which was the one I'd found previously and not really bothered with. Not my circus, not my monkeys, you know? Then my phone pops up saying I need to install all of these smart home apps to make the appliances work. Which didn't make sense. I'm enough of an IT guy to know that unless there's a burning need for it, home automation isn't really the best idea. Absolutely no telling who can access that information. These people had their garage doors, heating and air conditioning, lights, interior and exterior, televisions and refrigerator hooked up to a Wi-Fi with no password. In the industry, we call that dumb as a bag of hammers. Once I plugged the router back in to appease these suddenly irate family members wondering where the internet went, I hooked up my dog and took him for a walk. Before I left the house, I installed the smart home app and turned on one exterior spotlight and then looked for the house it was attached to. Presumably, if I was able to use their Wi-Fi, they were in line of sight. Once I saw the light that was on, I turned it off to make sure. The house was on the next street over, directly behind my house. There's a huge hill in the way that the builders left because Mother Nature didn't flatten my part of the country as a courtesy, so lots can be next to each other without being easily accessible. That meant going the long way around. My dog is an adorable 35-pound cockapoo who has much better people skills than I do. When I have to go to talk to people I don't know, he comes along because, well, he's about as threatening as a wet noodle. Don't tell him I said that. And I can't be that bad of a man if my dog is as awesome as he is. So we make our way over to the neighbor's house and I knock on their door. A nice old lady answers it, old enough to have moved out kids, but not old enough to be considered a Q-tip in my humble opinion. She forgets to ask what I want and immediately goes all gooey over my dog, and her husband hears the adorable appreciation sounds coming from his front door and investigates. He too is floored by my dog's awesomeness. There's about a minute of him getting all the attention, and I thought building a rapport before I remember why I'm here. I ask how they like their new smart home stuff, and they immediately start getting weirded out. Husband says, "We like it just fine. How do you know we got all that stuff?" Please don't take this the wrong way, I say, but you don't have a password on your wireless. My phone connected to it by accident and told me about all the stuff you had installed. Wife cocks her head to one side, and husband's brow starts developing a thunderous quality. I start talking faster. "I'm just here to let you know that you really should put a password on your Wi-Fi, or anyone can use it to do stuff like open your garage doors." Husband's brow is now in full fury mode, and he opens his mouth to, presumably, shout at me. But before he can, the wife says, "Oh, that's what the installer guy was talking about. He kept saying I needed to encrypt the thingy or something like that. We've never bothered with the password because it's a pain in the butt to set up and remember." Husband has gone from thunderous fury to bewilderment, and he looks at his wife and says, "Encrypt the what now?" I don't feel like getting voluntold to set up these people's network and appliances for them, so I say, "Okay, gotta go, bye." I power walk away from their house, and once clear, we mosey back towards my house. About 2 hours later, someone starts knocking at the front door to my house. Now, I live in an in-law apartment in the basement of my parents' house, so that's not my door. My mother answers the door and then stomps down to the door to my part of the house, throws it open, and tells me the police are here, again in a frosty voice. I hustle up the stairs, and there's Officer Dave, it's not his real name, but the only officer in my town at that point who would know enough about the computers to actually have a conversation with me without getting a must-smash nerd face. I say, "Hi Dave, what's..." He cuts me off before I can even finish. You promised me you were done with this crap after that whole Main Street thing. You freaking promised, and now I look like a butthole. Whoever had set up the timing on the stoplights from the main road through my town after some pretty serious construction did an absolutely awful job, and traffic was horrific. Me and a locksmith friend decided to fix the problem. After reporting the problem to town hall, got nowhere. We didn't break anything. I mean, he picked the lock and I hacked the light, and then we locked up when we were done. We got caught on the last light. The only reason I didn't go to jail was because Dave backed me up and made everyone wait a day to see if traffic was better, which it was. I then promised him no more shenanigans. What? I haven't done anything, says I. Then why the heck am I getting calls about you opening and closing people's garage doors and turning their lights on and off? To be fair, that did sound like the sort of thing that I do. Not to break into someone's house, just to mess with them. I'm mischievous, not evil. And then the light dawns. I point and I ask, did you get called by the people living in that house? Because I went over there a little while ago to tell them that they needed to put a password on their Wi-Fi. The only thing I did was turn on a spotlight to see which house it was. Nothing more than that, swear to God. They don't have a password. There's a thud as Dave face palms. I let out a yup in sympathy. He sighs and says, stay out of trouble, and I wave bye. Turns out the husband had called the police and gave a vague description of me and the dog and said that I lived nearby, and one of the other cops gave Dave a hard time about him cutting me slack before he drove out to talk to me. The couple got a call back to tell them that the issue was resolved and please secure your Wi-Fi. 2 days later, there's a password on their Wi-Fi and we all lived happily ever after, except for getting the stank eye from that couple whenever I walk by. The biggest facepalm of this story, I mean, you can say it may be this or that, OP putting on the spotlight, yeah, a little sketchy in ways, but he literally had the best intentions at heart, and these people didn't realize it. He's telling them, hey, people can really mess with your house because you don't have a password set up. They can do harm to you. And he just gets shut off even after having the cute dog because they think he's the one that's messing with them, when really it could be anyone, or they could just be lying. Of course, when the officer gets there and realizes how stupid these neighbors are, realizing they have no password to secure themselves. Like, you lock your front door at night, right? Well, they have no password, which is an equivalent of having a bright shining light on your front door saying, hey, look, our door's unlocked. This is the neighbors, they've screwed up here. Let me know what you think. Holy cow. Karen story time. This one's called Give Me Your Game, posted by Billy RKO 1987. I live in an apartment with my wife for 5 years. This situation happened recently. I was sitting at our kitchen table eating dinner and playing Pokemon Pinball. I was using my Game Boy Color. I had our kitchen window open and the blinds moved so I could get a good breeze from outside, and I figured, what could go wrong? Well, enter Karen and her son. Never even seen her before. I'm playing my game and I hear something behind me. I assumed the family of birds that live in the tree right outside were the family of bunnies. Wrong. A boy asked me what I'm doing. My back is to him, and I explained that I'm eating dinner. Stupid me decided to say I'm also playing a game. I told him the game and the handheld that it's for. He said, okay, went to his mom who was a few feet away. I went back to what I'm doing. Well, the boy came to my window again and asked if he could play it. I explained that I don't know him. I won't just give my stuff to just anyone, and maybe his mom could get him one. There's a disc replay store nearby and half-price books. Both probably have it. He said, oh, okay, and went back to his mom. Well, the mom, I guess, didn't like hearing the word no. Now she is at my window, not asking, demanding I give my video games to her as a peace offering. Peace offering for what? I again said no. I'm not going to give my stuff to anyone. I have no idea if I would even get it back. She didn't like it, got mad, stomping her feet a few times. I closed my window, closed the blinds, and went back to what I'm doing. Fine? No, far from it. A few minutes later, I see the famous flashing lights. When I see 3 police cars stop at the apartment building I live in, I checked outside. Karen was talking to an officer before he managed to get out of his police car, and she was pointing to my apartment. I knew immediately what I'm getting. 2 officers go into the mailroom and press my doorbell. I open the door and let them in my apartment. I explained that I'm eating dinner and playing a game. Her son asked about my game, asked to play, but I said no. I did explain about 2 nearby stores where he could get it if the stores have the handheld and the game of it. I'm asked if I ever punched her son and took it from him. I said, no, I never touched him. I never stole from him. It's my game and my stuff. I hear Karen yelling outside to the officers on the sidewalk that I should be arrested for assault to a minor, and jailed. I explained again that I never touched him, never touched her, and showed both officers where I was sitting and where they were outside my kitchen window. My neighbor in the next building called out to the officers that he had heard everything and has the interaction on camera. His landlord installed a few cameras, and due to package thieves in the area, and wanted to help him catch them by putting up a few cameras. Lucky for me, his landlord was there and showed police the footage. Karen went white and started yelling that we are horrible people, that we lied. She's gonna sue. She got a nice talking to about misuse of 911. Her son was nice. I saw him with his father a few times. The boy says hi to me, and the dad apologized to me about his ex-wife. I guess the son filled him in. Apparently, this wasn't the first time that she did this, which is why he divorced her. He has full custody now because she assaulted a boy in a mall and tried to take his Nintendo Switch. She's in jail. The boy did get a Game Boy Color from his father. Ouch, I mean, as someone who grew up in this technological age here back through the 90s, and so this is crazy. I had one of those as a kid. I know exactly what he's talking about. And man, this is just insane that she thinks that she can just own it because he had it, she wanted it for her kid. It's all of a sudden hers and the son's? Nah, this son, I am sorry his mom is so crazy, and I'm glad that he's got a dad with a good head on his shoulders that, well, apparently is not with Karen anymore. Holy cow, what do you think? Please help. What rights do I have as a renter being targeted by the HOA? Posted by Do Association 5112. I moved into my apartment about 2 months ago. Each 3-bedroom apartment unit only gets 2 parking spaces, leaving the third person with no spot. I was worried about this issue and voiced the concern to my roommates, but they assured me that there's parking spots about 2 blocks away from a nearby townhome community that I can park in. In worst case, I can use the guest spots on the property. They've done it for years. The security guard also told me that I could get a guest pass from him to park there if I didn't see any. Long story short, I got home at 3 a.m. one night and there were no parking spots, and I was forced to leave my car in a guest spot. I didn't find security for a guest pass for 4 hours, and when I checked in my car at 7 a.m., it had a parking violation that read, "Car does not come back to any resident." I didn't think anything of it. 2 days later, we are told by our property manager that the HOA wants us out immediately. Our property manager fought for us to at least get 60 days, and for legal reasons, they were forced to grant us 60 days. We had already signed our intent to renew and had another girl moving in at the end of the month for our new lease, which we had to cancel due to us being possibly kicked out. I spoke to the property manager, and it turns out that I was the last straw because of the past roommates' parking violations and abuse of guest passes, which I can't blame her because we don't have a right to park on property. I see cars with parking violations all the time, and I can guarantee that they are not being threatened to be kicked out after a parking violation with no written warning or notice. No communication is ever given with these kind of violations. My roommates didn't even know about the past roommates' violations either. It doesn't seem fair that we can all be punished. It also states on the parking violation that towing is the consequence of parking there, not getting kicked out. Technically, they are only not letting us renew our lease, and that's how they get around it as a loophole. Now we are 1. Left to pay an empty room that we can't afford because no one's going to move in for just 1 or 2 months. And 2, I paid tons of HOA fees, application fees, moving costs to move in that I should not be forced to do again 2 months later. They are giving me and my roommate 60 days to figure out what to do, and we feel lost, targeted, and bullied with no voice. What kind of rights do I have as a renter? Are they allowed to do this? Please help. Signed by two extremely clean, responsible adults in their 20s who pay rent on time and have never had any other issues. Now, I'm not a lawyer or anything like that, but if they are doing something illegal and it's above your pay grade to fight back and go against it, you could hire someone like a HOA lawyer that specializes in this stuff to know if they're trying to pull any kind of strings or any loopholes like you mentioned. This person, if you get this lawyer, will know the rules, and so do I, as Rick Astley had said, and then be able to take this stuff out, know what they're doing wrong, right, and be able to tackle them and hit them where it hurts. OP, I am curious to know what happens, and way to go. Lying Karen says she's the HOA president and charges us fake fees. Here's how we take her down. You gotta click this video on your screen to see the insane fallout, and I will see you there.